Well, it's time for Lamar Jackson to play a little catch-up back in Ravens camp, of course. QB1 back on Saturday after missing camp due to that positive test of COVID-19 again. Jackson speaking to the media for the first time yesterday. Of course, plenty of questions about dealing with the virus, getting back to normal. Lamar trying to put that all to bed, said he's just locked in. He's been itching to get back with his guys.
And I was just like last time, probably fatigued. If anything, I was sleeping a lot. But I'm glad to be back. 10 days being off, I ain't like it at all. So I'm just happy to see you guys, see my teammates, see the fans. I'm just glad to be back. It's over with. I mean, I think I'm mentally handling it well right now. I'm back. I'm feeling good. When I was at home, I wasn't doing too good because I'm missing my guys, and I'm watching highlights on Instagram and Twitter. I'm like, so I wish I was out there. They looking good. Snoop, Trace, they throwing the ball, flying around. The guys making great catches, tight ends working, defense working. It was like, man, I need to get back out there with my guys. They need to go away, so I'm just happy to be back.
Yes, of course. That's not the only thing probably Lamar has been watching. Not too long ago, a buddy of his from the same draft class, Josh Allen, putting pen to paper on an extension. Of course, that's been the question marks with Lamar this coming season. What are the talks going on between the Ravens and him with that?
Well, there's been an open dialogue going back months since, shortly after the end of the regular season. I wouldn't say any deal is imminent. And also, look, Lamar Jackson is very much leading the way in this thing. He doesn't have formal representation from an NFLPA certified contract advisor. He isn't working in conjunction with some of the infrastructure at the NFLPA in terms of guidance in this matter. It's him and his family, a close circle, and some people who are advising them, but it's not sort of the traditional construct for one of these contracts. So, is Lamar more focused right now on reading the fine print in Josh Allen's deal and seeing what, how the rolling guarantees work and which guaranteed for skill, injury, and cap at the time of signing versus just injury, and, the 3-year cash flow and where certain inflection points are in the deal? No, he's not. He wants to get out there and play football again, and he hasn't made it a priority to the organization to say, hey, I need to have this done before the season starts or we've got a problem. He hasn't had a third party come in and deliver that message. So they continue to sort of hash things out. I think it would be smart for all parties to get this done before the regular season starts, and they very well may. But, they've zigged when everybody else has zagged. So the things he's doing as a quarterback, when you start trying to quantify it with metrics and numbers, it's just not the same as what a lot of other guys are doing, the way he's asked to run this offense. Ultimately, there's a deal to be had here, but there's some quirks, there's some nuance, there's some things going on here that aren't, I would say, traditional.
Meanwhile, of course, Houston, you look at Deshaun Watson back after missing a few days in practice. He's not planning to travel with them in Green Bay, their preseason game, and David Culley not really giving us any details on how he's been able to practice or if he is at all. How should they kind of handle the situation with Watson moving forward here?
I mean, basically, all parties are sort of in cahoots here that having him continue to conduct what's essentially a hold-in is the way to go. They don't want him to be a forward-facing player for them. They don't want to put him in front of the media. They don't want him to do the requirements that are incumbent on a starting quarterback or someone you expect to be playing for you this season at that position. He doesn't want to do those things either for obvious reasons. And in terms of the playing, what if he gets hurt? If he gets hurt, he's not getting traded. And while I don't think a trade is imminent, and I don't think a trade is likely right now, given what we don't know about what could be coming from the various investigations into very serious allegations from multiple women about sexual misconduct. So you look at all that in its totality, having him sort of buried on the depth chart and buried on an ancillary practice field makes a lot more sense for all parties from a business and a PR standpoint than having him running out there taking what are essentially meaningless snaps in exhibition games for a team that doesn't want him and that he doesn't want to be a part of. and then dealing with everything that comes from that through the broadcast of a game, through media responsibilities, and then also that injury risk that could, completely eliminate their ability to move him somewhere else and get something of real value in return.
Over in New Orleans, of course, they're just trying to figure out who their QB1 will be between Taysom and Jameis there, but you still got question marks about your number one receiver, Michael Thomas, kind of letting it loose on Twitter. A little frustration going back and forth with the organization saying this. They try to damage your reputation. You save theirs by not telling your side of the story. Of course, that going back to his injury last season, Sean Payton not responding to those tweets. JLC, what's going on here in New Orleans?
Well, this is, I won't say the beginning of the end. This is sort of the end of the beginning. This is still a young player and a guy who did a lot of unprecedented stuff when you start looking at, number of receptions, et cetera, in the first 3 years of his career. But things have gone a little sideways there since contract negotiations. That contract was structured in a way that the Saints could move him and get out of it in relative short order without incurring heavy salary cap or anything punitive against them. He's a player whose name was surfacing in trade talks. We can debate who asked, if whether they were shopping him or whether teams were calling, but he was seen in the industry as someone who could be available far sooner than anybody expected when he signed that contract. And now you look at the differences of opinion about his medical situation and sort of this passive-aggressive war of the words going on right now through the media and social media. I don't think he's back there in 2012. We've had this conversation in the past, even before these things hit the fan like this. And I told you I don't think he's going to be back there in 2012. I'm sorry, 2022. And that remains the case. These are his final days with the Saints. The injury, the timing of that surgery probably precludes a trade before the deadline. But he's not someone I see with a long-term future there.
Of course, the last wrinkle in that with the surgery in June that kind of extends him into a later playing date in this season. Meanwhile, the Giants, Saquon Barkley back on the field for the first time since that ACL injury last season. Very optimistic that he'll be ready for week one. I feel like every year, JLC, these guys want to come back for week one. A realistic chance that happens with him.
I mean, look, it's just going to be predicated on how he feels, how he looks, what the trainers see, what the coaches see. You're right. Week one, it's a real thing in terms of the NFL, but depending on when you had your surgery, it can be something of an artificial date or an artificial, box to check because the timing of this, when you had surgery and when the swelling went down and all those things, and then just how you feel as you start to do more work in practice. If he's cleared, he'll go. But at this point, I don't know that he would do a whole lot in preseason games. And there are certainly situations in any recovery from a surgery like this where a staff or a training staff decide that someone needs to back off for a little period of time, whether it's a day, whether it's 2 days or 3 days, in order to keep their eyes on the prize for the end game, which is not necessarily being full go in week one, but trying to be somebody who contributes more weeks than not over the long haul. And oh, by the way, we're now talking 17, not 16.
Yeah, Johnson to be playing the long game here with their star back up there in NY. Jason Lagafor, as always, tapping in with the headlines on the NFL. Appreciate your time, my friend. Don't forget, you can check out the Pick Six podcast. Will Brinson and Ryan Wilson discussing the latest, of course, the reaction to Josh Allen's mega extension. Darius Leonard also getting paid. Xavier Howard, a new deal. Michael Thomas, what's the latest on him and the Saints there? Download and give the guys a follow.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.